Hello there, this is the Shadow Ranger, and this video is going to focus on the recently crowned TNA Television Champion, Gunner. Gunner is a member of Immortal. He's been tagging with his partner Murphy for a while, and 2 weeks ago he won the vacant TNA Television Championship. So this video is going to talk a little bit about him and where we go character-wise and storyline-wise. Since this video may involve some fantasy booking, I need to give my disclaimer. I am in no way saying that I can book wrestling better than the bookers or writers of any wrestling organization. These opinions are mine and mine alone, and only represent something that I would find entertaining. So Gunner's your television champion. That's cool. He's a newer talent. Someone that most of your audience hasn't seen. He's somebody from the indie circuit, so he's not a WWE reject, as many people like to call. He's somebody that TNA can build his brand as a TNA guy, as one of their own personal stars. That's always good. Is what everybody wants to see TNA do. Build their own talent instead of just using ex-WWE guys. They decided to put the television title on him to help get him over, and that's fine. I like to see some newer guys hold that title. It's a secondary title, and I want to see newer guys hold that belt. Only thing is that he won the belt 2 weeks ago, and then he wasn't on the past 2 episodes. I think he kind of should have been. Of course, Impact is a very crowded show because TNA does lots of different storylines, so you can't always have everybody on there. But if you're gonna get this guy over and make some money with him and do something good with this title run, he's got to be on the show on a fairly regular basis. At least he needs to start making appearances on Explosion. Any week that he's not able to be on Impact, he should probably be on Explosion, because it just helps get him over and get the championship over more. Now the first thing is, if he's gonna do anything significant with his belt, he can't just be Gunner. Gunner by itself as one name just doesn't work. It just doesn't roll off the tongue. So he's gonna have to start using a first name. Now, in my re-gimmick video on Gunner and Murphy, I said to use his real first name, which was Chad, and I said Chad Gunner. I think that name works. I can work with that name. I think it sounds good when you have him introduced by a ring announcer. The TNA Television Champion, Chad Gunner. That works. I think that works. So I would suggest using his first name and him just being Chad Gunner. Now, him being part of Immortal, that instantly ensures that he'll have television time, but he's the only person in Immortal with a title, so I think he needs to be showcased more in that group. Moved in as sort of treated as one of the main guys in that group instead of just one of the security guard thing. They transitioned Gunner and Murphy into them as wrestlers and not just the whole security guard thing, which is good. I didn't really like the security guard thing anyway. I would have worked better them as the hired muscle of the group, kind of like what Test was with the corporation for a while before he just started wrestling more on his own. He's got to start cutting some promos about him being champion, and that makes him one of the best, and we got to get him some challengers. So since he's with Immortal, that makes him heel. So let's start talking about some potential baby faces that he could feud with. Give him some jobbers to beat on Impact and Explosion for a little while we get some, and then start setting up a couple actual storylines for him to defend his title at the pay-per-view. So I'm looking at the TNA roster page right now, and I want to look at some potential challengers he could go after. Now, at the top you have AJ Styles. That could be a match. I actually wouldn't want AJ to beat him for that title, though. I think that it's time for AJ to get back into the world title picture, but Gunner being able to get a cheap win on AJ does add some credibility to him. If he can beat any former champion, that also helps. He did beat a former champion, Rob Terry, in the 3-way in which he won the title, so that gave him a little bit of credibility right there. You could probably get away with a couple of the smaller guys like Amazing Red and Brian Kendrick for a show or two. Devon's always an option. but I don't think you could do an extended program with him and Devon. He could feud with another newcomer, which is Crimson. A lot of people thought that Crimson would be going after that belt and trying to get it from Abyss. And I think the Crimson Abyss thing is still going to go for a little while, so we have to wait and see kind of how that goes after Lockdown. But I think Gunner and Crimson for a little bit could also work very well as a babyface. Last week on Impact, Christopher Daniels returns, and I think that's a potential storyline that a lot of people would be interested in. Excuse me just a second. I apologize, I'm still a little bit sick. I've been sick for the past week. So anyway, I was saying Christopher Daniels, that's a possibility. Christopher Daniels just returned. He's always been somebody that the TNA fans have really, really liked and really been into, and that could be a pretty good feud, and I think you could get a good match out of those two. Moving on down the line, you have Eric Young is a fan favorite. Everybody likes. You could do something with him. Let's see here. Heels. Jay Lethal is an option. I mean, I know most people look at Jay Lethal and think of him just sticking in the X Division title scene, but you know, Jay Lethal's been X Division 10 champion 6 times, and none of his X Division title reigns really were that great. But he could go toward the television title, and that could be a potential feud for Gunner to do. I think you get some good out of that. You have other members of Fortune, Kazarian being the X Division champion. You know, it's been a while since we had any type of good champion versus champion type of feud. A champion versus champion rivalry, which could end with one of those guys holding both of those belts. But at the same time, while I could get into that, if two champions are feuding with each other, they could be feuding with other challengers and give you other angles to go with. Speaking of Angle, Kurt Angle is the next person on the list. I'm expecting Kurt Angle and Jeff Jarrett to conclude their program and Lockdown in the Cage. I'm expecting Kurt Angle to come out on that win, and I'm thinking after all the stuff he's gone through with Jarrett, Kurt Angle, when that's over, he'll be thinking championship gold. And the world title picture is pretty stacked right now, but I can see Kurt Angle saying he wants to go after that television title. You could build a angle off the fact that AJ Styles is the only Grand Slam champion in the history of TNA, and Kurt Angle is only one title away from completing that Grand Slam. Kurt Angle has been X Division champion, although it was for a very short time. He's been tag team champion. He's been world champion. He hasn't held the television title in any of its incarnations. So I think you could have a good angle going there, is that Angle wants to win that title as a part of an achievement to complete the Grand Slam. Again, he could say, I'm one of the best, but yet there's only been one TNA Grand Slam champion. Plus, he's a Grand Slam champion in WWE, so that would be an achievement. You know, I completed the Grand Slam in WWE and in TNA, and you could build that up. You know, you might not want to bring up WWE because that's something people get annoyed when they do, but bring up the fact that Kurt Angle wants to complete the Grand Slam. To do so, he needs to win that television title. And Kurt Angle would clearly be the face just after everything's been going to with Jarrett. He's been a babyface for almost 2 years straight now, and I think that'd be one good thing he could do as a babyface. But I would actually have a Gunner come out on top at the end of that program. I think they could go at that for a good while. And I talked about in one of the other videos about an idea for Kurt Angle to have a run as the X Division champion, and so he might not get that TV title from Gunner, but after that get the X Division title. And you can check out that old video I did called After Immortal from Olympic Gold to X Division Gold. But I think that's a potential good angle. Gunner as the TV champion, Kurt Angle's coming after him because of achievement. Kurt Angle wants that achievement of being the Grand Slam champion, so he's got to win the TV title, and Gunner's the TV champion. I think it's a very simple feud that a lot of people get into, spirit of competition. Let's see here. Next, we got Matt Morgan. Excuse me again. Matt Morgan He's doing his thing with Hernandez now, but after that's over with, that's something Matt Morgan could really get into. I mean, he's come close to winning the world title a few times, and there's a lot of people who are fans of Matt Morgan. They wanted to see him as world champion, and while world champion might not be good for Matt Morgan right now, TV champion could be a good move for him. That's something he could get into. I think a lot of people want to see Matt Morgan wear championship gold, and him going after that TV title. He would make a very good baby face. He's a bigger guy than Gunner, but Gunner's no small guy. He's a big tough looking guy too, and that's totally believable feud of those two going at it for that title. Let's see here. Moving on down the line, got me phone Mr. Anderson, Orlando Jordan. Orlando Jordan is a possibility. That would be a kind of an odd one though. But since OJ started pairing up with EY, he's become a de facto babyface. And I don't think that would be something that would be an extended feud. But for 1 month leading into a pay-per-view, as him as a babyface, just kind of messing with Gunner, creeping him out with all his weird, multicolored angel wing fairy stuff that he does, that could work for a month. See, Ric Flair, Rob Terry, and Robbie E. Robbie E is a possibility. I think that Robbie E should be a babyface. The thing, I like the Robbie E character, and I think he's a good wrestler, but he's been in the X division and he's been a heel. Both of those are things that I think are bad for him. I think he could work better as a babyface. It's like a more goofy babyface type role, and I think while he's a good wrestler, Robbie doesn't do like the high flying, fast paced stuff that people want to see with X Division guys. So Robbie going for the TV title makes a lot more sense in my opinion. And I think he would also be better as a babyface, as a fun, goofy type babyface. I think people would really get into him if they did that more. Let's see here, Rosita, Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe doesn't need a reason to do anything. Samoa Joe could just go in there. I want to be champion. I want to collect some championship gold. I don't want to kick somebody's ass. I want to kick the ass of somebody important, and you being champion makes you important, so I want to kick the crap out of you. I mean, Samoa Joe's one of those few wrestlers who can just do any storyline based on I don't like you and I want to kick your ass. It's very simple when you book Joe. You can do that with him. He has that persona where you don't really need a reason. Samoa Joe doesn't really need a reason to want to kick the crap out of somebody. And Gunner just has to take on Samoa Joe to protect his title. I think you can get a couple of good months of program out of that. Let's see, Scott Steiner. I don't really see that working. James World Champion, Suicide Terror. Yeah, so that's pretty much everybody that I'm looking at on the TNA roster right now as all potential feuds that Gunner could do. I think he could have a very extended heel run as long as, there's plenty of talent. The guy, with what I've been able to see of him in the ring since he's been in TNA, he clearly has wrestling ability. That's not the issue. I'm pretty confident that he'll put on good matches with several of the baby faces on the roster. That's not an issue. I think he just needs more TV time to do promos and establish himself character-wise. And I've heard a lot about him, and people who I've heard talk about him on the indies have always said positive things about him. I've never heard a bad thing said about him. So he obviously has some talent. The fact that TNA even signed him shows that he has talent and can do some good stuff. So I just hope that in the coming weeks, at least after lockdown, he gets more of an opportunity to be on television and do promos, get himself over as a character. I think seeing him in normal clothing a few times, cutting promos, him in the back with somebody doing a promo, holding that belt in his hand, in a not like in the whole suit and tie thing, but a nice, good looking pair of dress shirt, dress pants, looking good. Nice pair of shades. I think he looks like a star. I like his look a lot. I really do like his look. He looks like he's a star. He looks like a guy who when he cleans up real nicely, you put him in a nice shirt and tie. He looks like a guy that you could have standing right next to Ric Flair, with Ric Flair as his manager and stuff, talking for him. And that's another thing, if I haven't heard him talk much since he's been in TNA, so I don't know how good he is on the mic. But a manager is always helpful. You got a great talker in your company like Ric Flair, who is in his 60s now, and Rick will wrestle every so often, but Flair can't wrestle all the time anymore, but he still has that great speaking ability, that talking, that charisma. I mean, he's the only guy I ever seen who made Rob Terry sound cool when Ric Flair would come out with Rob Terry and talk about him. If Gunner himself isn't a good enough talker, put Flair with him. Let Flair be his manager and talk about how great he is. Flair talking about he manages the greats, he manages champions. He's champion because he's learned from me as part of Immortal, and I can keep going on. Have Flair out there cutting his promos for him. I mean, Flair's been doing some stuff with Matt Hardy when they've been doing the stuff with AJ, and he doing the talking for Matt Hardy, and that works. But Matt Hardy doesn't really need anybody to talk for him. So put Flair with Gunner, and he can be Gunner's mouthpiece and his manager. And just have Gunner say a few lines and get in the ring, kick some butt. I think you got some good potential here. Now, I'm at 16 minutes. Anything else I want to say about Gunner? I think I've said all I'm saying. Just to wrap up and recap, I like this guy. I think he's a good wrestler. I think he has a good look, and I think him carrying that TV title, you could do some really good stuff with him. Now, it's possible that TNA are just using him as a transition, that they're just having him hold that belt and he's going to lose it to somebody else soon. I would hope that doesn't happen, because I don't like seeing the whole transitional champion hotshot and belts too much. I think if you're going to put a title on a guy, put it on a guy that you think can do some good with it for a while. And I think Gunner has a lot of potential with what I've been able to see of him in TNA. And I'm hoping that he does get the chance to have a good couple of months runs and have a couple good feuds and get himself over, get that title over, and make that belt feel important again. Because you only need one good title, one good champion to make people care about a championship again. Alright, so that's all I have to say on this topic. This is the Shadow Ranger. Thank you for listening. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at TJSMITH3. Also wanted to do another Q&A video. I just need 5 good questions. So if you have any you'd like to send in for my next Q&A video, DM me or hit me up on Twitter. So thank you for listening. Have a nice day.